Hello, welcome back to Marathon Man, where I'm going through Doctor Who from the very beginning, and you join me as we hit the monster season, the base under siege season, or whatever you want to call it. Season 5 anyway. Season 5 begins with a scene in the Tardis, and it always hits me how long it's been since we've been in the Tardis console room, or at least had a moving scene set within it. And it works on a level I hadn't really fully appreciated before whenever I'd watched this story, but now it's quite difficult to look past. Because it kind of feels like an almost knowing attempt to begin the show afresh. Like a soft reboot, not in terms of continuity, but like in tone, in a kind of like back to basics kind of way. Because like a new companion comes on and we get a little bit more than we normally would, fleshing out who the Doctor is, what he's about, and what his show entails. The revelation of his age and the reactions from both Jamie and Victoria help to highlight that even this far in, we don't know the Doctor as well as we think we might. The TARDIS interior helps convey the wonder of the show very economically, and as Season 5 kicks off, there's a very definite feel of beginning the adventure again. Maybe it's because this is the first time on the marathon that one can watch an entire Troughton story without a recon or an animation, and, by the way, how nice is it to be able to see Troughton fiddling with the console for the first time. Or maybe it's because of that slight tinge of renewal, but this definitely feels like a breath of fresh air. For starters, there are little touches which elevate this above being a run-of-the-mill Troughton base under siege story. I mean, it is a run-of-the-mill Troughton base under siege story, but it's got little flourishes which help lift it, and it's these little touches that I think help this story enjoy a pretty decent reputation despite a simple plot and a very limited setting. Let's face it, that base under siege format isn't groundbreaking here and will continue not to be as Season 5 progresses. But I don't like the Tube of the Cybermen for its simple plot, and I don't like it for its claustrophobic use of the same room. Do you know what? I don't even like it for the Cybermen. I like it because of its performances and its writing, and they are head and shoulders the best thing in this story. This is the story with the wonderful business of the Doctor and Jamie accidentally holding hands, Jamie's very real reaction to the Doctor's awful metal breakdown pun, the Doctor refusing a gun with a delightfully throwaway "I shan't need it," and that extraordinary scene between the Doctor and Victoria where he briefly talks about remembering his family. This is wonderful for a couple of reasons, and the first, I think, overshadows the second. Because, like, as fans, we tend to love it because the Doctor is talking about himself and we get a glimpse into how he thinks about his past and remembers his loved ones. But there's another reason why it's notable, I think, because we make it about the Doctor, but it's actually more about Victoria. And the only reason he's sharing all of this information is because he wants to look after her and make sure that she's okay. It all comes about from the Doctor asking her if she's happy with them and how she feels after her father has died. His speech about his family sleeping in his mind, though beautiful, is all about making Victoria, the friend in front of him right then, feel better. It's rare to see this sort of compassion from him and see just how seriously he takes his duty of care and how much he values the people he travels with. It's a glorious moment, and Troughton and Watling nail it to the wall. Speaking of Victoria, she really impresses me in this story. Little more than a plot device in her introductory story. Here she's given some room to grow and emerges as a very decent character. Now, being immediately distrustful of what's her villain and obvious bad guy doesn't make her overly perceptive, because seriously, who couldn't see that they're up to no good? But her handling of them shows a lot of steel. Her reaction to the food of the future is a nice touch, but I think her best moment comes when she uses everybody's prejudices of her as just a screamy girl against them as a ruse to allow the captain to overpower Kaftan. Now, That's run a close second by her taking out a Cybermat. Later on, she's even throwing some sass the captain's way as well. So yeah, I really like her in this story. The story remembers that she's a person and not just the next companion. So her fretting about the length of her dress is respectful of her Victorian origins, and the Doctor's attempts to placate her by pointing out the length of Jamie's kilt is the sort of thing that comes along all too infrequently in 1960s Doctor Who, but which I'm really glad when it does make an appearance. So yeah, Victoria is definitely continuing to go up in my estimations. The supporting cast are good value as well. Okay, the foreigners are the baddies and they have a strong black slave of few words. But the characters which the story deems important end up being quite well written and performed. Okay, so Viner is a babbling coward of almost cartoon proportions to the point where he makes Victoria look like Rambo. But Cyril Shaps is so much fun in the part. He's basically playing Stan Laurel and has found himself on a dangerous space expedition to try and find out what happened to a deadly alien race. His incongruity in both the mission and the story are what make him work for me. And I'm rather fond of how £50 is still an incentive in whatever point of the future this is.
£50 for the first man to open the doors.
Unless Kaftan is offering like £50 in weight of something actually precious, like jelly sweets or something. Her and Klieg do make for entertaining bad guys, and that brings me back to why I think this story really works, despite its considerable limitations in terms of plot and setting. Ordinarily, like, the stupidity of a villain can wrench you right out of a story, but here, the stupidity and monumental arrogance of the story's villains are key to why I think the story works. Their unwavering belief in their own intelligence is just incredibly relatable. And it sets us into automatically like hating them. Like, people that walk around in life declaring their own great intelligence are not fun people to be around, especially when they are demonstrably not that intelligent. And that's palpable here, and it makes for the most loathsome pair of characters we've had in a good long while. When Klieg kills Viner as he gets a hard-on for the Cybermen reawakening, it makes him twice as punchable. When he's smiling as he's told by the cyber controller that he's going to be the leader of a new race of Cybermen, it makes him 3 times as punchable. Gawping there, thinking that it's a reward, thinking that he's oh so clever when he hasn't got a clue what it entails. Yeah, with the exception of Toberman, it's through the characters that where this story really succeeds for me. The Cybermen end up as almost like window dressing. Great window dressing. Because in this story, they're really good again, and I've surprised myself on this marathon for the 3rd time in actually sort of like thinking how good they are. But at the same time, I still... Okay, so this is the best of the 3 Cybermen stories so far, but they're still not really given a proper chance to actually shine. As with Power of the Daleks, the Cybermen get their name in the title, and this means that they can be treated as a lurking threat to be teased. Having had them supposedly die out centuries before is a lovely twist. It adds to their legend, as if they've been around forever when we've only met them twice before. The Cybermats might not be stellar in design, but they move pretty effectively, and like I say, Victoria taking one down earns her some points, even if she's squealing at one a little bit later. But the Cybermen waking up is stellar, as is the reveal of the controller with his massive veiny bonds. I know they're ripping through Kling film, but I really like their theme music. And you know what? The ripping through the Kling film isn't what's key to their reveal working so well. For all the talk of the Cybermen emerging from their tombs, the reason their reawakening works so well is this. They haven't said a word until the end of episode 2, but when they do, chills.
You belong to us. You shall be like us.
This is just as good as their marching over the icy tundra or walking across the surface of the moon. However, after this moment, after they've been revealed, it is downhill for the Cybermen again, as it has been in pretty much all of their stories so far. But, as I said, the Cybermen aren't necessarily why I enjoy the Tomb of the Cybermen. Both Troughton and Hines continue their excellent work, and even if Jamie has slightly less to do, it really doesn't matter if some of that time is devoted to fleshing out Victoria. She's our new companion, she's our new regular. Getting to know her a little bit better is fine in my book, and if that means that Jamie has slightly less to do than normal, so be it. There are still some great Jamie moments though. I mean, there's one bit where he pretends to understand a load of scientific jargon just because it'll save time, and Fraser Hines plays that to perfection.
It's a lighting system that never goes out. Works by letting cosmic rays bombard a layer of barium.
Oh, aye, that. Yeah.
Better still is Troughton, who is now firmly in his stride. He takes a further step up with the introduction of Victoria, because he's now got a crew of his own rather than flitting about time and space with the final two of Hartnell's companions, and this helps that feeling of a refresh and further invigorates Troughton, who hardly needed it anyway. To focus on Troughton's more overt performance tendencies is to slightly detract from all of the excellent work he does ever so quietly. He's on to Captain Klieg and Toberman from the start, and at one point goes full Columbo when he suggests he knows that they were responsible for sabotaging the rocket. Now, it's only a tiny, infinitesimal part of the story, but the man is excellent. There are moments in this story for which he's better remembered, and all of them were mentioned earlier in the video, like holding Jamie's hand or his tender scene with Victoria, for example. But I happen to think that, I think Troughton's best performance in this tends to get overlooked. I've seen some people say they have problems with this story because of the questionable actions of the Doctor himself. Like, why is he so against the team breaking into the tomb when he then helps them do exactly that? Yeah, okay, that does seem inconsistent on the surface, but I think it's all there in Troughton's performance. Like, his warnings are just really half-arsed. Oh no, don't do that. Like, in the same way that a health and safety training official will tell you where the fire exits are. It's just sort of like, legally I have to tell you that. The Doctor is meddling, but not wanting to get his hands dirty. He wants to see what's in the tomb because of his innate curiosity, but he wants plausible deniability. For his own conscience, in case the Time Lords are watching, who knows? Obviously not the latter, they'd not been invented yet. But even if it were an inconsistency in the script, Troughton took it, mulled it over, and worked out a performance to make it work.
Only I wouldn't do it if I were you. Oh no, I really wouldn't do it!
So, this story does have problems, some of them quite big. So the Doctor persuades Toberman to turn on the Cybermen by convincing him the Cybermen are using him as a slave. Now, the fact that Captain and Klieg seem to be doing exactly the same thing doesn't say much for the big man's intelligence or his representation. But it was the 60s, Chris. Yeah, it was, but that doesn't excuse it. It just highlights how very wrong people got it back then. Just because it was the past doesn't make it better, Grandad. Anyway, we finished the first story of Season 5 with the Doctor not wanting to commit and firmly state whether or not it's the end of the Cybermen for good when, not that long ago, he was declaring definitively that it was the final end of the Daleks. So, who knows? But 173 episodes down, and the show has reconfigured itself slightly again, giving everything like a bit of a jolt.
You probably can't remember your family.
Oh yes, I can when I want to. And that's the point, really. I have to really want to bring them back in front of my eyes. The rest of the time, they sleep in my mind, and I forget. And so will you.
Probably the characterization of Toberman. Some would have been good. As ever, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this archaeological expedition, then you know how YouTube works. Please do pop it a thumbs up and spread the word. It really does help the channel, helps more people find it, grows the community, and has more people running the marathon alongside us. And what are your thoughts on the Tomb of the Cybermen? Is it the Stone Cold classic it's made out to be, or is it supremely overrated? Does the fact that it came back in its entirety miraculously in 1991 give it a reputation that's more superior than it deserves? Or is it really that good? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you back here soon for the first appearances of both the Great Intelligence and the Yeti. So if you don't want to miss that, hit the subscribe button, clang the cloister bell, and I will see you in Tibet.